I'm Logan Lott. With me here, I got Rob Royce.
Howdy.
We're going to talk about Nimbus. Nimbus is a sculpture in Juneau, in downtown Juneau, that's been a source of controversy throughout the years. So just to give a little backstory on it, I just want to go through a little timeline, and then we're just going to kind of talk about the things that we know about Nimbus from talking to people and living here for a while, as well as I've conducted a few interviews, and we're going to read some editorials that people wrote to the Juneau Empire over the years. It's a very impassioned subject. Nimbus was constructed and installed in 1978. It's a 15-foot tall steel structure painted in a kind of a turquoise color, which the artist called Juneau turquoise. The whole thing, it cost $40,000. Half of that was by the National Endowment of the Arts, which was a matching grant. And I think it's really important to know that it's the first grant to the state of Alaska for the arts. So half of the funding was from the NEA, the National Endowment of the Arts. $10,000 of it, so a quarter of the cost, was put up by the Alaska State Council of the Arts, as well as a matching payment of $10,000 by the Alaska court system. So it went up right in front of the courthouse there, downtown Juneau. Shortly afterwards, after the unveiling of it, for a number of years, the sculpture became the source of a lot of controversy, kind of split the town in two on their feelings on it. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people liked it. There was a lot of controversy this because of its abstract form. It was an abstract piece. It didn't clearly depict any kind of Alaskan element, really. Its color is very interesting. One person that I've talked to has said that out of the 350 shades of green in Juneau, that that this turquoise color that Nimbus has is not one of them. Its cost was another thing. $40,000 people felt was a lot of money to spend on something such as a piece of abstract art.
Yeah, in today's dollars, it's about $160,000, just for the record. So to give a little bit of perspective, an average home in Juneau is $280,000. So about, roughly twice half the value of a home in Juneau.
Yeah, it's half a home. So, and another thing that was a source of controversy was that the artist was not Alaskan. He's a Vancouver-born and raised artist that was based out in New York. All these things together have given us has given us what has been termed Alaska's most controversial sculpture. In 1984, Governor Bill Sheffield, along with an incoming conservative legislature, ordered its removal after the legislature had passed a resolution seeking the removal of Nimbus. It just made them that mad and divided the community. So in the summer of '85, just shortly after that, Nimbus was removed. Its base was cut off by a blowtorch, and this created a jagged, roughly cut surface susceptible to corrosion, and it lied on its side in a DOT parking lot outside, not covered or anything, and where it collected dirt and bird droppings and graffiti. And then, so after 5 years, in 1990, a group called Friends of Nimbus, which were led by Judge Beachhoover and Judge
Tom
Stewart. They were part of Friends of Nimbus, and they got it back, raised back up, so in 1990 it was moved to a new home at the Alaska State Museum, and last year in 2005 it was moved to the new museum, where it has since stayed today.
Completely refurbished too. They reattached the cut metal that was cut off the bottom, sandblasted it down to metal. Mm-hmm. Rewelded it and repainted it in its glorious Juneau turquoise.
Yeah, Juneau turquoise. Yeah. That was the name of the color. And when the color is often something that people call attention to. Like I said, a lot of people feel like it's not representative of the colors of green that we have here. I mean, when you think of Juneau green, you would probably think of the dark forest green of the trees, maybe a slight green of the water reflecting off the sun, maybe.
And I feel like I've seen that green in that when you get glacial runoff mixing with the ocean in the summertime, you get that deep turquoise green there. So it doesn't seem like an unnatural color to see here, but it's very loud.
Yeah, yeah. I think for a lot of people, it brings to mind a lot of different things. For me, because I grew up partially in South Texas. It reminded me of it's a very like fiesta kind of a color, like the old San Antonio Spurs logo.
Yeah.
It also reminded me of there's a South Texas water park called Schlitterbahn in New Braunfels. And New Braunfels is like a German town, so Schlitterbahn. I don't know what that means in German. Probably just water park. But it reminds me of like a slide or something. So if you haven't seen Nimbus, definitely pull up like a Google image of it so you can get a better idea of what we're talking about. Like I said, it's 15 feet high. It's got two parts that are bolted to the ground, and they're like freestanding. How else would you describe it? A lot of people have described it as a stiletto heel, I've heard.
Most people that have described it to me has described it as a two-legged thing that squats. And to me, I feel it's more of a delta rising. It seems to come up more than it does to squish down. And then reading the stuff about it, in particular, Robert Murray, he's talking about just how to install it, about how the weight of the upper part drives apart the lower part, and that's why everything had to be situated in such a way so that it didn't spread apart under its own weight.
Okay.
So I find that more interesting because when I look at it, I feel it rises, and it has its natural thing is to squish down. I think a lot of people get off on that squish down thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that it represents this or it represents that. Even in one article that I found in here, which I'd gone to the Alaska State Museum, and I had an internship at the Alaska State Museum 7 years ago, and I was in charge of sorting the Nimbus files for
the Nimbus files.
2 days. Yeah, the Nimbus files, dude. It's the largest collection of files that they have. Actually, is the Nimbus files. So I sorted it like by editorials. There's a lot of technical aspects. There's even just talking about a lot of the hate mail to the Juneau Empire that Nimbus received. There was even a note sent to the museum by a member, and I'm not going to say their name, of course, but it said, if you erect Nimbus at the museum, you can consider our membership canceled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of interesting stuff out there. But getting back to what I was talking about the representations that people see, it's like a Nimbus cloud. I mean, it's like staring up at the clouds and coming up with a shape. One person said that it was to them it represented the judicial system, and how, first of all, they commented how in representing the judicial system, they were hoping that it wouldn't come flying out from being bolted in the ground and come like flying down Main Street.
Divine aura, somebody says here. Thundercloud. Not in a physical sense, of course. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of interesting stuff.
Hunk of metal, luminous vapor.
People sent all kinds of stuff. A lot of people did not like Nimbus. Another thing is, besides the color, we can talk about the abstract form. I mean, I don't know. Do you think maybe that like Alaskans just weren't ready? It was the first major piece of abstract sculpture in Alaska.
Well, I think Alaskans forget that they look at abstract art a lot. Most native art is very abstract, and although it's put together in such a way that we see it as a representational item, the Tlingit form line is purely abstract. And it has some things in there. Oh, that's an eye, that's a tooth, that's a mouth, and those kinds of things. But they're abstract forms, and I think people would have accepted it more. I mean, from what I remember, it was people were like, I don't know what art is, but I know what a good weld is, and that's a crappy weld. And so it kind of, you had this like a third of the people just hated it because it was some outsider telling us what art's supposed to be. You had a third of the people that liked it just because it's art from the outside, and that's exciting. And then you had a third of the people that didn't know But then when they looked at it, they were just like, it's not put together well.
Yeah.
I can't respect the craft of this item. And,
Yeah.
That's something that's always bothered me, too. And looking through these papers, it was interesting to find out that the person who did the weld was named Fast Eddie. Which was just, it was kind of a thrill to me to realize that it might have just been some shyster that came through and...
yeah, I mean, maybe $40,000 just doesn't buy the best welding in addition to all the materials. Yeah.
When it was refurbished, it was Acme Welding here in town who did it. Sherman, he just passed away recently, and he was ace welder, fantastic welder, and he I think it cost $10,000 to re-weld it. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That would be $2,500 in $1978.
Yeah, it would be 25 cents. Let's see, what else?
Sorry, I work at the Department of Education. I'm the procurement officer, so I'm involved with a little bit of the contracts to re-site it and refurbish it. So
yeah.
I'm not sure if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't. That's great. It gives a lot of background to it. Yeah. What you were saying, too, about how there was abstract art in the form of Tlingit artwork, or of native artwork, because, of course, there's the Haida and Tsimshian in the area as well. Robert Murray was saying, when I talked to him earlier today, which I'll include an edited version of the interview after this. Robert Murray, when I talked to him, he was saying that he got the color, actually. He got the color from the Tsimshian artwork. A lot of the form-line artwork, the boxes, the totem poles, have a lot of that kind of turquoise color in them, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that kind of where do they get it? They get it from a place outside of Sitka, right?
I'm not sure.
It's it's a specific stone. It's special. That's how they decided to live in Sitka, was because they had that color that they could get there.
Wow.
According to Totem Park, that's what they said. In Sitka.
So interesting.
Yeah. I'm. That's one of the things I also found interesting about reading all of this again and revisiting it. I actually learned about it in art history class. There was another piece by an artist called Richard Serra that was in Chicago, I think, that was removed, a tilted arch. It was ripped out of sight, and it was a big controversy that, here's a 1% for art project that you purchased, you've cited, the artist created specifically for a site, and then the community decides to rip it out. Do they have that agency to destroy a piece of art?
Yeah.
Without even consulting the artist. And it was kind of embarrassing being from Juneau, reading about this in an art history class of those stupid hicks in Juneau. What do they know about art? It kind of it really reinforced that idea of somebody from outside trying to tell us what is and is not art.
Yeah.
For me, I always look at it as, in today's dollars, how much would you spend to have everybody in town decide what is and is not art? And to me, it's a bargain. Everybody, you either love it or you hate it. There's no in between.
Yeah.
It's a great piece.
I've found that from when I've talked to people about it, and myself included, is that it grows on you. And I haven't had a chance to follow up with a lot of these people that have written these editorials, which we'll get to reading some of them, because they're pretty funny in just the hatred that they have for Nimbus. Some of them are praising Nimbus. I would say it's about 75-25 or so, though, or 60-40 maybe.
110. 10%.
110? Yeah. Most people did not. The people who wrote to the Juneau Empire didn't like it so much. But I found that Nimbus grows on you. For me, whenever I first moved here, I didn't understand it. Over the years, it's grown on me, and I think it just has that way about it. I think for me, it's kind of this. It represents kind of the funky kind of odd culture that exists in Juneau. It's unique. There was somebody that I interviewed earlier today. His name was Dennis Harris, and Dennis was around whenever they were first installing Nimbus. He wasn't there for the grand unveiling, or at least he doesn't think he was. It was a long time ago. But he and Dennis will be 70 in a week. He's a local cab driver in town, and he does tours during the summertime as well. And he knows a lot about Juneau. And so when I sat down with him to talk about Nimbus, he was telling me about the installing of it and how at first he didn't like it. for about a year. He even told Robert Murray that it was pretty ugly. That's what he says. He told him while they were installing it, before the grand unveiling, he saw it, and he said it was pretty ugly. And he said, "Why did you put this here?" And Robert Murray said, "To disturb people and make them think." No, this isn't, this is 40 years removed now, just about 38 years ago. So maybe that's not exactly what was said, but that's Harris's version of what Robert Murray said.
As an artist myself, people are not shy in Juneau about telling you that something you made is ugly and that they don't like it. So and Dennis Harris in particular is one that would speak his mind that way. That seems very, very in character.
I don't know.
It seems very in character of the artistic attitudes at the time as well.
Okay.
Artists were trying to be very confrontational with people and trying to get in their face with the abstraction, and so that seems a good recall on Dennis's part, I think.
Yeah, and Dennis was saying that after about a year, he started liking it, and a big reason why he started liking it was because he found it comforting that it upset people because it didn't match. And this is something he had actually told Robert Murray. He was like, "It doesn't match anything around there," and Robert Murray apparently said it's not supposed to match anything around there. So it's not supposed to match the buildings. So I really thought it was funny that Dennis his take on it was that he liked it, that it upset people, that it kind of shook things up for people. Yeah, but then it became kind of a part of his regular life, and he said that he started liking it and it grew on him, and then he would walk from his workplace on Franklin Street to his house in Calhoun, and he would give it a pat on his walk home, walk between the arches, give it a pat. And it was kind of like a ritual,
Yeah, we used to pee on it when I was a kid.
That
was our ritual. Yeah, we would all the time. It was kind of like let's go pee on Nimbus. It was
when it was in the DOT, or
no, when it was in sight. I mean, it was. So I grew up in downtown Juneau, and at the time, downtown Juneau was everybody's playground. So it was just all the neighborhood kids would run around doing things, and Nimbus was a regular pee stop. And it was, because of the arch and the inside, you could actually, if you needed to pee, it was actually a private spot to pee. So, yeah. And, and that was just very much a kind of mirroring my parents' attitude towards it. They despised it. My parents hated it.
So it just gave you an extra reason to pee on it. It was like you were supporting your parents. You were like fighting Nimbus.
Yeah, and then of course puberty hits, and it's like, oh, Nimbus is the best thing ever. And,
So afterwards, Nimbus got a lot of hate. Do we run over? Let's read some of the choice editorials.
Nimbusil,
there we go.
Dear Sir, I am sure this is only one of the many comments you'll receive concerning the Nimbusil erected beside the state court building. I won't tell you what should be done with those who authorize this official letter, but I do have a proposal for those people of Juneau who do have good taste. That chunk of metal graffito seems perfect for adding other graffiti to. The proposal is to sell graffiti space for $1 a shot to anyone who wants to paint a message on it. All proceeds to haul it to the channel and dump it. It would be sort of like putting a message in a bottle and throwing the bottle into the sea. As an Anchorageite who loves Juneau, I would love to help. Includes my $1. I designate you to use my $1 to write Adios Nimbusil Bon Voyage just before it is launched.
Man.
And I think that kind of touches on this kind of attitude of the urban versus rural kind of thing, this provincial attitude. The person he throws in as an Anchorageite who loves Juneau. At the time, there was this whole capital move thing. People were trying to move the capital to Willow, and that's in a couple of the other letters. And so he's saying he's an ally with us. He loves Juneau. He doesn't want to move the capital, and he wants to get rid of our sculpture and help us with that.
Okay, I'll read another one here. Hunk of metal. Dear editor, $40,000 for that hunk of metal they're installing in front of the court building. It looks like it could be put to better use to patch the next ferry that runs into a channel marker. What a waste of the taxpayers' money. Another one. Whatchamacallit. Dear editor, we have discussed the whatchamacallit in the area by the court building. Many people concerned with not cutting trees, not allowing much needed gravel pits, oil storage, etc. should not miss gazing at the whatchamacallit. It appears to me that the Environmental Protection Agency have become delinquent in their duties. It's amazing.
One person calculates how much of his tax dollars went to pay for Nimbus, and it's a nickel, and he wants his nickel back.
Hey, you know, that's a valid point.
And it is an interesting point where this happened. It was right before the huge influx of oil dollars hit, where basically we couldn't spend money fast enough here. And it was still when, Alaska was very, very broke. And here's this thing that just doesn't look like anything. It's nothing you could relate to. And people didn't accept the challenge to understand it. They just fought it. And it might be more of an Alaskan spirit to fight things and fight that outside interest, and kind of a something that just represented all the things that we fought against in statehood, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a valid comment, I think. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand this hate. I remember it as being really controversial and really loathed. But, you read these letters, people really hated it.
One person calls it, it should be called Ode to a Used Typewriter Ribbon.
Bent prop of a state ferry after it ran aground.
Yeah.
I could have done better running a truck into a metal building. I was going to call the United States Coast Guard and report a hazard to navigation awash on the terrace of the state court. It's amazing.
Yeah. I can't seem to find it right now, but there's one that calls it a dog waste collector.
Oh, yeah. One of my neighbors growing up, I lived at the top of Main Street, and this is way back when plows were bad and cars were bad, and he lost his brakes going down Main Street.
Oh, man.
And instead of trying to make the turn down at the bottom of Main, he decided to take the turn at 4th Street. His Bronco rolled, almost hit Nimbus. And he was fine, Nimbus was fine, but he got a trophy from the local bars with an upside-down car on it for courageous duties for this town, trying to destroy Nimbus and without fear of loss of limb and whatnot. And I don't know what happened to that trophy. I'm sure he's sad he got rid of it, but I would have kept it forever.
Oh, man. That would be classic if you found that. Wow. Nimbus clearly has impassioned a lot of people on both sides. We just highlighted kind of the dislike of Nimbus. There are some articles in here for Nimbus. I guess I should include one just because I find them not as fun as the as the hate ones. And we're only reading the short articles. The longer articles kind of go on and on. But this article is just simply, I like it. Dear editor, I want to express my growing appreciation for our new piece of art, Nimbus. At first I was put off by the artist's choice of color, but now I realize that only such an obnoxious color could capture the watcher's attention from amidst the confusion engendered by the wildly discordant styles of the surrounding buildings. This piece has brought some focus to an otherwise drab and barren area. I like it. My congratulations to the artist and the Council on the Arts. So yeah, I think that
short and sweet.
Yeah, I think that person had a good point there. I mean, it sounds like at first they didn't like it, and then it changed again. The popular story that I've always heard about it being unveiled, and I can't find a witness to corroborate this yet, but the popular story that I've always heard is that whenever it was unveiled, there was like a collective gasp amongst the people that were and now there's like a predictable bear statue that's there.
Windfall Fisherman,
yes,
which cost quite a bit more money than Nimbus did.
Oh really?
Yeah. If you inflation-proof the dollars and whatnot, just for inflation. And that same sculptor, R.T. Wallen, has put up the big whale sculpture downtown, which is, I think the total price tag now is running at $10 million. which in 1978 dollars would be $250,000. I really think Nimbus was quite the bargain. We really have missed the boat on that.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, the whale statue is another subject for another podcast, maybe.
One of the letter editors pointed out that they had put up a stained glass window in the. At the time, it's the City Museum now, but at the time it was a memorial library. It was a stained glass window by all local artists that cost $6,800. And it seemed like the cost of that stained glass window in comparison to Nimbus, again, saying that it was quite the bargain.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Yeah. There's a lot to say of public money in art. So Nimbus has impassioned a lot of people. There's opinions all over the place, and beyond these articles, beyond these editorials, there's a lot of creations that people have made over the years about Nimbus. I have in front of me, I have a poem. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long. It's a version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, but it's about Nimbus. Let me just read. I will just read some snippets of this, and I will provide the full article of The Raven, as well as other materials on JuneauNimbus.org. It's a new website that I set up alongside with my fiance, Rosalind Ienza, who is very talented, and she made it look very beautiful. I couldn't have done that without her.
Did she use that Juneau turquoise liberally, I hope?
It's very minimalist and beautiful, actually. And she uses some of your photos, Rob.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, some of the Facebook photos. That's another thing, is that Nimbus has it has a Facebook page. It has a Twitter hashtag. Hashtag Nimbus Sculpture, I believe, is the hashtag.
I've been using the wrong one. I gotta get on board.
Are you at Juneau Nimbus or?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Oh man, there's
I've
multiple.
Just been doing Nimbus.
There's multiple ones. No, because Nimbus, just hashtag Nimbus brings up a lot of
clouds.
That's clouds, and then people, small companies that people made called Nimbus or this and that.
Okay.
People have written poems, they've written songs about Nimbus. This Raven poem, it's a take on Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And again, just snippets of it. It says, "Dear editor, once upon a day so dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of Alaskan lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping on the courthouse door. 'Tis some state employee,' I muttered, tapping on the courthouse door. Only this and nothing more. I heard again this rapping, ever so lightly tapping. 'Tis the wind and rain,' I said, nothing more. But again it came stronger than before. 'Surely,' said I, 'there is something at the door.' Here I opened wide and took a look outside. 'Twas the rain and nothing more. But no, before me sat a stately raven, perched upon our Nimbus graven. Perched upon our beautiful, lovely, luminous Nimbus, perched and nothing more. Then my gaze fell upon a shocking scene. A foul and oozy white streak dropped upon the green by this feathered creature so solemn and serene, spotted Nimbus forevermore. 'Junk, junk, junk, you nasty, noisy, stripless skunk, get thee back to the Juneau dump. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie that thou hast spoken. Take thy beak from out of my heart, and take thy form from off our art, and stop the droppings from your foul intestine core. Quote the raven, junk forevermore. And that raven, never flitting, still is sitting, still is S-blank-ing. On that piece of junk just outside the courthouse door, and his eyes have all the gleaming of a wise man dreaming, and as you go about, you too may hear him shout, junk forevermore. With apologies to Mr. EA. Awesome stuff. So yeah, there's been a lot of things created about Nimbus. There's a guy named John Palms. He was actually part of an April Fool's joke, apparently, is what Dennis Harris was telling me. So John Palms did this April Fool's joke called Nimbus Rising. Nimbus was gone via the blowtorch. And so Nimbus was gone, and it was an April Fool's Day joke. This guy John Palms had created kind of a miniature version of Nimbus with the top he created, it was like the top and then kind of some scraps at the bottom to make it look like Nimbus was bursting from the cement, trying to break free. Or
just the tip poking up.
Yeah, it was just the tip poking up. Yeah. And you can find that picture on that JuneauNimbus.org site that we put up. That was in the year after Nimbus was taken down, so in 1985.
My relationship with it has been kind of, it's kind of developed along the lines as the community's relationship with it, where, at first I hated it, just kind of mirroring my parents' hatred of it. And, and then the rebellion and deciding that I wanted to be an artist and like, I have to love it. But then, acknowledge that it was poorly crafted kind of thing, and then learning more and more about it. And then, now I have this relationship with it. I walk by it, I take a picture of it, I enjoy it. And I actually really think it's a great piece. I'm sad it's not where it was, though. And especially the whole idea of it contrasting with the site and thinking of it being a courthouse piece. And just the, 1978, he's probably still working off the Vietnam kind of experience of people and anti-government kind of thing, not really feeling great about the American justice system, and putting this thing right in front of a courthouse. And especially, it just turns away from everything. It's so different from all the styles of building. It doesn't, it just works against everything that's there. And, you work off this idea of complementary colors in art, and maybe that was his kind of inspiration, is to go, it's a great piece.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, whenever I talked to him today, he was talking about how he's very anti-war, and he would never, it's like his nightmare to be commissioned to create a war memorial. It's just something he wouldn't do. He's very much a pacifist, I would say. He's very anti-war. I'll just leave it at that. You can listen to the full thing in the interview again after this podcast. I mean, I think you have a point there.
Yeah. People hate it so much.
Yeah.
Every time I post a picture of it to Facebook or Instagram, in particular on Facebook, about 3-1, it's hate. Hate. I mean, it's not like a little hate. It's a burning white hot heat. The people I went to high school with, they were traumatized by Nimbus when they were children.
Yeah.
It's this thing that they just despise with no reason. And it's surprising to me how much it's hated.
I mean, I might as well include my view on it. It is something that grows on you, and I'm not like a big fan of abstract art or I know nothing about it pretty much outside of Nimbus because I've been kind of interested in it for the past few years. It doesn't represent Alaska and when you look at it initially, if you think about it a while symbolically, kind of in its like what you're saying, the against the man kind of a way. It's a bit of a middle finger. It's meant to kind of work against the structure of the downtown courthouse and state capitol building and all that. And I think they are kind of drab buildings comparatively to such a in your face piece as Nimbus. So I understand. I'm not really like super anti-Nimbus or super pro-Nimbus. I mean, I like it now, but I understand both sides. One side thinks it doesn't represent Alaska is very much, and the other side thinking that the artistic sensibilities, the freedom of expression, represent Alaska.
Yeah, I come back to the money in a lot of ways, just because I go, well, how much should we spend on it? What did we get with that money? When you look at comparable arts purchases these days, you look like, say, Totem Park and Sitka. At the time when they put in Totem Park and Sitka, it cost about $160,000, which is what, in today's dollars,
Nimbus was.
We could have got a Totem Park for it. That would have been really cool and very Alaskan.
And they do get a lot of tourists and visiting the Totem Park.
Yeah.
And so they have seen their money grow back probably tenfold or so or more.
Ooh,
yeah. They get a fair amount of cruise ships up there.
Yeah. I don't think we could get a Totem Park for $160,000 now, though.
No.
It's such a strange sight to have it now, though. I mean, at the State Museum, where it kind of it crosses the line between art piece more into artifact as of our culture here. And I think people miss that. They're just so mad to see it that they don't realize that it has a historical significance, not just for Alaska, but for art history in general and arts policy in this country. After the controversies with this sculpture and other sculptures, the NEA really did pull out of funding local arts. It was coupled with Ronald Reagan. And,
Reagan cut the funding to the NEA.
Turning away from it, and the NEA going to more publicly acceptable things like Shakespeare. And moving away from anything that has even a hint of controversy. And I think it's sad. I think it's a sad statement on our culture that we can't be confronted with something that is so confrontational to what we think things should be, what they should look like, what they should make us feel. It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, Dennis Harris was saying that whenever I asked him if he liked when Nimbus was finally resurrected and put at the museum, that he just didn't think it was in the right place. Whenever the Friends of Nimbus raised the money to get it resurrected, there was two choices. They could either have it erected at the university, or they could have erected it at the museum. And ultimately, the museum won out. When I talked to Robert Murray, he thinks that it fits well at the museum. He likes the space. He doesn't like the K2 building in the way. He thinks the K2 building is kind of in the way of Nimbus, and that it should kind of look out onto the channel.
As a fellow artist, I could understand wanting to tear down a building that would give your piece a.
So we got to get rid of we got to get rid of the public radio station.
To me, I think the more important place where it's situated is you got to look at it as in relation to Mount Juneau, because Mount Juneau goes towards I guess it would be the east, and when I look at it, it's to the right. And, when I look at Nimbus in its most flattering light and where it was situated originally, it turned away from that. It turned the opposite direction from Mount Juneau. And it does that in its current site. And I think I like that. The State Museum location, it has lots of other art around it. I think it's a great spot for it. I remember when Nimbus came back, people were really upset. Because it did come back, and it still had the spray paint on it, and
and bird droppings apparently,
and rust, and it really just did not look well. But
also in the flatbed truck apparently that they brought it, that they had dumped it, it wasn't like padded or anything. They just threw it out there and then threw it on the ground.
I'm surprised they didn't sell it for scrap.
Really,
given the freight rates at the time out of Alaska, it would have been very, very cheap.
They could have sold it to Schlitterbahn.
Yeah,
it would have been great. Bring it back.
While we were talking, I googled Schlitterbahn, and its color is much more blue than
Schlitterbahn.
Yeah.
Oh, the Juneau. Okay.
Yeah. And Google returns lots of Schlitterbahn deaths.
Oh, yeah.
And as far as I know, Nimbus has not killed anyone.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Still have time, Nimbus. You have anything else to add? I think we've covered quite a bit.
Nimbus is a glorious piece of art. It really is. It's a touchstone for everybody in the state, and in particular, everybody in Juneau. Anybody that's grown up in Juneau has a relationship with Nimbus. It's not something that does not command an opinion. You have to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a great expenditure on public arts.
Yeah, I think it's probably the definition of art for a lot of people.
And I love that its resurgence is coming around. There's so many people interested in it, and there's so much stuff. Just, its spot at the State Museum is just, it's a great spot. People are rediscovering it.
Rediscovering Nimbus.
Yeah.
I mean, Nimbus has a Facebook page, has an Instagram, maybe 2 Instagrams, maybe a few Instagrams. It has hashtags. It has a Facebook page with 112 likes. You yourself can like it and add to that growing group. I've liked it. Rob has liked it. And now it has a podcast as well as a website. And if you want to see it in person, it's over there just right in front of the Alaska State Museum.
335 Whittier.
Whittier. There we go. I was going to say Willoughby, but that's Bullwinkle's. and as well as State Capitol.
Probably there on Google Earth too.
Probably.
I have to say, Juneau Nimbus is a great site. Man, that's awesome. It's beautiful. It has lots of. It's
Thank you.
Got video.
Good job, baby. All right, with that, we'll wrap it up. If you want to stay tuned, I'm going to include an edited version of the interview with the sculptor himself, Robert Murray. Thank you very much.